right, good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. It's 9:04 a.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Commissioner Gary Edwards, Commissioner Emily Klaus, and Commissioner Carolina Mejia by Zoom. We have County Manager Leonard Hernandez and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. The public virtual attendance may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. We have 2 hours prepared for this session, which will review the draft agenda for May 21st and cover some standing items. So we'll just kick off with that review. So pull out your agenda for May 21st. That meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the agenda. The presentation, proclamation for Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Yeah, so Amy's working with the Sheriff's Department and the jurisdictions. Amy, you want to give a quick overview?
Yeah, representatives from the Sheriff's Office and possibly other local jurisdictions and to accept the proclamation. They're still coordinating who exactly that would be.
Okay, and there's a draft in the packet of that proposed Peace Officers Memorial Day. Also, we're going to cover that, so that'll be good. Any questions on Peace Officers Proclamation? Nope, okay. Then there'll be opportunity for the public to address the board. County Manager update. Predicting or preparing to provide any update on anything?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Yep.
We have consent items 3A through 3L. So first item is proclamation for Therapeutic Court Awareness Month. And we have that draft in the packet as well. This I mentioned yesterday as a commissioner item. We're going to be doing this as a consent item, and I'll be doing probably around the presentation time. I have a paragraph that kind of summarizes what it is, and then it won't be a formal presentation. Any questions on that item? Okay. 3B is a Sheriff's Office item, Black Lake Regatta application, which we see every year. We have Ray Brady from the Sheriff's Office. I know we've seen you before, Ray, but just tell us what this is again.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lieutenant Ray Brady from the Sheriff's Office. We every year, Thurston County, we host typically a couple regattas. This year, we're only doing one. The Fish and Wildlife Department did not approve the ones out at Lawrence Lake this year. So this one is for Black Lake Regatta, which are the hydroplane, smaller hydroplane boat races. They're being held June 22nd and 23rd this year, which is a little bit earlier in the year than in previous years. But I've reviewed all of their information that they've provided and have been working with them over the last couple months on getting everything finalized and up to date. So this is a request for approval of their use of Black Lake. They use the south end of the lake to hold their races. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Questions? Ray, I didn't catch what you said there. We said something about Lawrence Lake wasn't approved by whom?
So Department of Fish and Wildlife is one of the agencies that has to make these approvals. And my understanding was there was some concern about the public not having access to launch boats on Lawrence Lake with them having the boat launch closed. So that's mitigated on Black Lake by the use of a couple other launches that are available. This group does use the Fish and Wildlife launch, and that was approved. But the fact that the public has the ability to launch at a couple other locations, they went ahead and approved the one for Black Lake.
It's just something new. They've never had that problem. The lake is closed to boating during the race period anyway. So I don't understand it, but we'll look.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Okay. All right, well, as far as this one goes, sounds like we're good to go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is 3C, Human Resources, Resolution to Reclassify Positions.
Yeah, we have our Human Resource team here. Do a quick overview and then answer any questions. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Tara. Good morning.
morning, Commissioners. Maria Ponte, HR Director. So what we have today is our second packaging or bundling of reclassification requests. If you have any specific questions, Tara may be able to answer them. I may be able to answer them.
I mean, I've not seen a situation where we're just given like position numbers and we don't know what they are and what the, so I think we're gonna have to go over them one by one.
We can certainly do that.
So what we have this morning, we have 6 reclassification requests. The first one is from the auditor's office, senior financial analyst to senior management analyst. The difference in the max ranges between the two positions is $842 a month. The ITC consultant 2, I believe that's a project position working on Oracle. And that's a request to fill it as a systems manager with a difference of $1,200 a month. Education and outreach one, is that public health?
Yes.
Public health. Education and outreach 1 to 2, that's a $700 a month difference. The next 2 are from public works, a right-of-way agent to administrative assistant, and that's cost neutral. And buildings and ground specialist to flagger, and actually that's a decrease of $1,000 a month.
How much?
1,000.
Okay.
And superior court coordinator to judicial assistant, and that's also cost neutral.
What did you just say, cost neutral?
It means that the pay ranges are the same, so it doesn't increase or decrease.
So this is gonna be absorbed by the entities involved, right?
For the current budget.
Yeah, and then next year, it becomes the base. Is that right? And when you say 700 or 1,000 or whatever it is, that is the top range. That doesn't mean that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Correct. So if the position is filled, there are rules around where they're placed. Is typically about 5% extra. For vacant positions, it's going to depend where they fit in the range. So entry level could be the minimum of the range, mid-range, all the way to the top. It depends on their qualifications.
What's the overall impact on our budget gonna be as we,
Commissioner, there's a sheet just provided to you. And if you look at, apologize, I didn't have this at the ready, but the total monthly difference for the positions in the item looks like it's $1,763.
but then times 12 potentially.
That's 156.
How much?
21,156 maximum potential. Which may or may
And
not-
are any of these gonna require bargaining for, the adjustments?
No, all of these requests have already been vetted by me.
How many are we gonna have as you're incrementally fixing the situation? I recognize that, but as we get through this, what's that $20,000 gonna look like when we get done? I mean, I realize it isn't gonna be an immediate impact, but we have to think about that as time goes on. So, I mean, are we gonna be up around 150,000? What's it gonna be by the time you get done?
So I
It's
can
gonna-
tell you that there's,
Roughly.
out of this group of reclassifications that have been kind of sitting, there's 4 left that we should be able to bring forward next month. And then at
It's
that
kind of the
point.
same numbers, you think? The same number of FTE
For-
positions? Or
There's only 4 positions. And off the top of my head, I don't know what the max of those ranges are. But even that, those are filled positions, so when we look at, we give you the max. It's not necessarily what the actual
Robin's
impact will
got some
be.
insight on this, I guess.
Just going to say, Commissioner, that there is only one of these that has a direct impact to the general fund and a second one that is allocated on the 60-40 split.
I'm okay, I guess. I don't know of any other answer myself, so.
What we can do,
I think
Commissioner, is we can work with HR to get all of the ones that, including the 4 that are coming, to get a one-sheet cost overview, because I understand what you're asking, like, what's this impact total? And then identify, as Robin just did, which is not on this sheet, what's the different funding sources, so you can see the impact to the general fund and additional funding allocation.
I'm just wondering, farther down the road, are we gonna be able to afford this, or are we gonna have to make layoffs to afford it? We're not out of the hot water yet,
Sure.
so,
We'll work together with the budget team.
I mean, I wanna do all this, I just wanna make it all fit. From my perspective, it doesn't.
All your questions were my questions too. Commissioner Klaus, I saw your hand.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could briefly tell us which departments these are in. Some of them are obvious, but like some of them aren't. The first 3, actually the first 4. Could you go over those departments?
Sure. So the senior financial analyst to senior management analyst is in the auditor's office. The second one, ITC consultant, is in IT department. The education and outreach is in public health. The right-of-way agent and building and ground specialist are both in public works. And then the final one is in Superior Court.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Certainly.
And for future presentations like this, I guess we'll have a little change to this.
Yeah, we'll talk about some more detail and context so that you understand what's being asked, the departments, and then how it's gonna affect the general fund. So it's not just position numbers listed.
Can you remind me,
Probably me too.
why are we seeing this group, how you're approaching, why is it that we're getting this 6 and this time and not the other 4, and these weren't included with the ones we just did 2 weeks ago?
So if you recall during budget deliberations, a number of these were embedded in budget requests, and the board basically kind of set them aside and said, let's revisit these in 2024, and that's what we've done. So some of these have been sitting and waiting for 6 months. And so since we had a backlog, staff has been whittling away at those, and in the meantime, we're getting new ones. So that's why we're bundling them, and the commissioners, majority of the commissioners had also expressed a desire not to see them piecemeal, because you did want to see what, the impacts of these requests we're looking at.
What was done between when we shelved it and now? You needed to talk to the unions, or you needed to make sure they were consistent with other classifications across different departments? What is it that makes these ready to go from your perspective?
So when the requests come in, we have the offices and departments provide what the request is based on. So what are they seeking for the position to do now that it can't currently do? So the 2 different classifications, we analyze those tasks and duties, and then we ensure that the requested classification is justified or fits, or we may request something different. And if it's a union position, then we put the union on notice and give them an opportunity to do their review, give us feedback, and by the time they get here, we've met with management, the departments, with the union, we've done our analysis, and we're bringing it forward to the commissioners for you to make the final determination.
Okay, so that's really helpful. So we're responsible for the money, obviously, but by you bringing them, you're giving us an extra layer of analysis that these are appropriate and make sense and meet the need, an extra layer of analysis that's more objective maybe than where it came from originally from the particular officer department.
Correct, because we want to ensure that the classification meets the needs of the department, and sometimes they may not be aware that there's various classifications that a position could fit in, or sometimes you know, somebody's doing something 10% of the time, well, that might not be sufficient to get them to the higher level. So we're doing that analysis before it gets to you.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of solving the problem before it pops up like an unfair labor practice or
Absolutely.
working out of class or that kind of.
Correct.
Well, thank you. It's probably pretty complicated.
Anything else from the board? Okay,
Okay, well then, in about 4 weeks, we'll have a different bundle for you and
4.
hopefully more information.
Yeah, we'll work together as a team to
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
update the agenda items, get more context.
okay, item
sure.
3D is
Civil
appointment to.
service,
Sorry.
I didn't know if you wanted me to stay for the civil service or.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
In case you had some questions, I might be able to answer.
Okay, appointment to the Civil Service Commission. Tina Browning is the one proposed. I'm looking at Amy. What do we need to know about this?
These were the appointments reviewed last week.
Right, I seem to remember reviewing them.
There was direction to include. the
Oh yeah, I think it's Commissioner Mejia maybe wanted to have additional time.
Yes.
Commissioner Mejia, are you okay to go forward with this one, or did you need more time?
Nope, I'm ready to move forward.
So everyone's good? It sounds like you're off the hook, Mike.
I think everybody's, or a lot of people still wanted some type of briefing on what civil service was at some point in the near future.
Yeah, working on it. Okay, perfect. Let's go to 3E, appointment to the Historic Commission. Christy Bingham.
Again, this is an appointment reviewed last week.
We did cover this one last week. Any concerns about having this one move forward? That's right, we did kind of review a bunch and just
And we
put them
wanted
on
to bundle
today.
them into
So
the
you didn't have to
21st.
go squeeze them on. Okay, so these are kind of already been looked at. Very good. Next one is appointment to Veterans Advisory Board. We have a few of those, right, because we have new seats to fill. And there's F, G, H, I, J, K. And those were all recommendations from the committee, right? And we all said to go with the committee's recommendation. Any questions about those? Okay, then we'll jump ahead to 3L, which is the auditor voucher list for the week of May 6th. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well,
I saw your mouth opening.
I'm just gonna ask Robin, are we okay on this?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, May 6th voucher list. All right, then the first department item is 4A, Essential Services, purchase of new dishwasher for Thurston County Corrections Center.
We have Jason ready to go. He just got his cameras on. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Jason Ash, Facility Services Manager. So Commissioners, we're coming to you to ask for the purchase of a new dishwasher, commercial dishwasher. The current one is original to the building, so 2010, I believe, is the year it was installed. This is used by the inmates, so it gets a lot of use daily and damage and whatnot. So this was vetted through the state contract. There was 2 vendors on the state contract. We reached out and asked for bids for both of them, and this was the lowest bid by about $4,000. Also, this will be paid out of the jail equipment fund reserve account that we have. So, and I'm here if you have any further questions.
My only comment is that's a heck of a dishwasher.
Yeah. Gotta be heavy duty.
Yeah, it's not the one at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, it lasted 14 years. I want to find out, what
Might
that
be
is
worth
and
the
get
money.
it. And then I looked down. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll just keep buying mine every few years. Holy cow. All right, well, any other questions? Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Commissioners, 5A, bond resolution for acquisition and remodeling of various county facilities.
We have Jeff joining us this morning. Thanks so much.
Oh. Were you gonna speak to this?
I just wanted to represent the Finance Committee, what we discussed. Would you like to kick it off first and I'll comment later?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
So this is the bond resolution that authorizes the county to issue general obligation bonds in the amount of 42 million. These are the bonds that we've been talking about that will be used to fund the purchase of a building for the sheriff's office, the remodel of the ballot processing center for the auditor at Mottman, and there is enough room in this amount to fund other projects should they come up and have adequate funding for bond repayment. And one example that we will be asking the board to consider is the security control system at the FJC. So we have been working with bond counsel and bond advisors who have drafted the resolution. It's been reviewed by the finance committee, and the bonds would be issued this fall with the final approval of the board. This resolution authorizes me to sign the bonds, and that has been the county's practice since years before I got here. And that expedites the conclusion of the bond sale. And if you had not authorized me to sign it ahead of time, then the board would have to meet within about an hour of the bond sale to sign off on all of the paperwork. So this is allowed by state law.
Commissioner Mejia, before I go to the treasurer.
Thank you. I just wanted some clarification. Robin, did you say that this bond included the FJC control room?
It could, Commissioner, and staff are working on a memo to the board with a proposal to use bond money instead of a single payment out of the general fund. And we'll be bringing that to you soon.
Okay.
Is the money for repayment all out of the public safety sales tax?
No, the funding for the sheriff's building will be out of the public safety sales tax. The funding for that's the sheriff's portion. Funding for the ballot processing center is from the justice, if you will, portion of the public safety sales tax. The structure of these bonds, the purchase of the sheriff's building is intended to be a 20-year bond. The purchase or the remodel of Mottman is a 10-year bond. If we were to fund I'm going deeper into this proposal than I had intended, but if you were to fund the FJC, we're proposing that be set to pay out of the detention sales tax with some support from the general fund in the short term. So the funding source depends on the use of the proceeds. Yeah.
And that's all kosher as far as going out to the bond?
It's been reviewed by bond counsel.
Okay.
And I think that's something that Robin and I need to connect on to make sure that there's an understanding before we bring it forward. But I think she's just throwing out an option at this point.
Yeah. But mixing the revenue sources is perfectly.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's done all the time
Okay.
of how to pay for bonds. They're
Repayment.
tied to the funds that
Okay.
can pay for what the uses are.
Duncan's here if we needed anything.
Yeah, Duncan and Stacy was going to be available. Yep, they're both here.
Okay, we see you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna go to the treasurer next.
Yeah, I'm sitting here this morning in front of you as the chair of the finance committee. And one of the parts of our debt policy is that the finance committee review these bond resolutions prior to coming before the board. And I just want to assure you that we've reviewed it, and this bond issuance is in compliance with the Thurston County debt policy.
Commissioner Mejia's got her.
Still up, Commissioner Mejia?
No, I just forgot to lower it.
Stacy and or Duncan, given the questions you've heard, is there anything you wanted to throw in since we've got you?
As Robin said, again, we kind of wanted to make the resolution a little bit more broad as you guys are deciding kind of what you want to finance with this potential bond issue. Thus the inclusion of the juvenile jail part. We didn't want to have to come back to you later if it is decided you did want to finance that. And so again, the parameters with which the final terms of the bond issue can be, you know, so the day of the sale, as Robin mentioned, she can determine or she can approve the final terms of the sale. And those parameters are in section 4. So again, certain not to exceed amount, not to exceed interest rate, not to exceed true interest cost, and final maturity dates.
Is there anything that's being impacted by what we may need to do or not do with the state auditor's office?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Seems we're having a good time back here. Okay, any other questions for any of our folks who are Commissioner Klaus?
So if this could potentially include the FJC needs, would that would the 42 million cover part of it or most of it or all of it, or would we need additional money above and beyond the bond amount for the FGC?
It's going to depend on the actual costs of the sheriff's building and the remodel at Botman.
Okay.
So those two, we think, are going to land around 30. We left a lot of room here. We don't have to issue 42 million. We could issue some amount less, and we'll refine the number when we get closer to the sale.
Okay. So we would be approving this now kind of as a ceiling and then come back?
It is an up to. This resolution sets the parameters.
Okay. Thank you.
And as in the past, I would not work with our advisors to conduct the sale without a final approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Jeff.
Item 5B, Council on Racial Equity and Inclusion Proposed Bylaws.
So this is just an update. The council has recommended to the commissioners that they unanimously voted on these bylaws. Everyone's reviewed it. They're okay with everything that's outlined in the bylaws. And so this is just for you all to decide whether or not you want to implement them. Within the bylaws, I'm not going to go into detail because you've had an opportunity to read it, but it really provides an outline for the levels of professional expectations and behavior that we want to see on the council, the types of memberships. We have 2 co-chairs. It outlines my role on the council, which is, take notes, help set up meetings, and so on. And then outlines the terms and limits, and then how members may be potentially recommended for removal. Either they're not attending meetings or just conflict of personalities and behavior that make it challenging to serve. So pretty similar to other bylaws that are in existence right now.
Any changes since the last time we reviewed this?
Reviewed the bylaws?
Yeah. Any changes to them that are brand new?
I believe this is the first time you're seeing the bylaws.
So we just haven't had a chance to review the final draft yet? We're not making any changes to anything.
Well, I believe there are no bylaws currently, correct?
Right,
So
but the final, the last draft that we looked at is what I'm wondering about.
I don't know that the.
I think Commissioner Edwards is confusing it with the racial equity plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is the first time. So, the bylaws underwent review with the members of the council. So this is the first time that you're seeing them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think maybe it's also, as part of the conversation in the last briefing about the Racial Equity Council, there we probably alluded to the fact that we were not able to move the bylaws forward because of the lack of quorum and that type of activity. So that is probably the last time we were.
Okay. But you're correct, Commissioner Edwards, that this is the first time you're reviewing them. So if in that review process you have any questions, we're happy to provide them.
We'll touch base next Tuesday with any,
Okay.
yeah, thank you. So at this juncture, I'm not hearing any questions for DB. No, yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Should we have this in our email? I don't recall seeing it, but I can go back and double check.
No, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe it's been consistent practice that advisory boards will email you their bylaws.
Okay.
My understanding of what's been in place, and if there's a change, let me know, is that advisory boards will draft their bylaws, vote on it internally to recommend it to the board, and then that's when you have an opportunity to discuss and review. And if there's changes, I'll take it back to the council. If not, then you would just do your normal
But we haven't
process.
seen,
We just need our chance to review now.
yeah, we
Yes.
need our opportunity to review.
Yes,
Okay.
Which we now have between now
and next Tuesday.
and Tuesday. If we're not ready, we can postpone it and deliberate further and.
Yeah. And if between now and Tuesday you have any questions, let me
I
know
was-
and I can
Same
meet
thing
with you to
that
chat
Commissioner
further.
Klaus was wondering. I hadn't seen the final, what we're supposed to review yet. And that's what, so thank you.
Okay, so there's a document to be circulated. And then we'll-
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. 5C, set public hearing for telecommunications franchise agreement with Ziply Fiber Pacific LLC.
Yes, I'll cover this one as Nicole is in a ERP development meeting. So this is a franchise agreement with Ziply Fiber Pacific. This particular item sets a date for public hearing on the franchise. Ziply applied for a franchise with the county in January of this year and has been in negotiation on the contract with the county prosecutor's office and with Ken Feldman, who is the attorney that we contract with. He is, as you know, a national expert on telecommunication laws. This agreement is substantially the same as our other telecommunication franchises. It is a 10-year contract that allows Ziply to operate in the county's rights of way, and it's a non-exclusive contract, of course, but there is a fee that they pay, a franchise fee to the county that is deposited in our general fund. This would be our first contract with Ziply. They've not contracted with the county in the past. Again, this item is to set the public hearing, which is required by state law.
Sweet.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just said sweet.
Oh. All right, any questions on item 5C? Setting the public hearing. Nope, hearing none. We'll move to 6A, Community Planning and Economic Development Interlocal Agreement Amendment for Voluntary Stewardship Program. Morning.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. I'm here this morning in a support role to staff. So I'll hand it over to Ashley, our Community Planning Manager.
Yeah, well, good morning. I am really excited to introduce Kevin Jensen. He has been with county since January, but I don't think you've seen him in the boardroom. He is our new Agriculture Program Manager. Kevin, you want to say hi?
Good morning, everyone.
So he has been busy working on the Voluntary Stewardship Program. That's the program that we run to support agriculture here in the county in partnership with Thurston Conservation District. And so this morning, we're coming to you with an amendment to our existing contract because we have been very successful at landing money from the state for cost share projects. So we got 3 more cost share projects funded with State Conservation Commission dollars. They essentially pass through us, and we pass those monies on to Thurston Conservation District to provide technical assistance and direct payments to farmers for installing conservation projects on the ground. So these monies directly go to our agricultural operators to install things like weaver storage facilities and rotational or fencing for rotational grazing and things of that nature.
So it helps the farmers and keeps our water clean. Good stuff.
Kevin, did you have anything to add about these particular cost share projects?
No, these are good projects that the county is putting on the ground with the help of Thurston Conservation District. So I've seen some of them firsthand. Exclusion fencing along waterways, riparian planting trees, native plants like that. So yeah, no, it's a good program, and it's expanding greatly. So the ag community is in full support of the program. So I see it has a bright, bold future for the county, the conservation district, and the ag community as a whole.
Any questions?
No?
Okay.
I think we're good.
Come on, Ben.
Item 6B, ordinance 4A25 Forest Lands Conversion Code update.
So again, here in a support role, so I'll toss over to Ashley and let her and her staff take it away.
Okay, so we were last here, April 24th, with a briefing on the Forest Lands Conversion Code update. We've had a number of briefings on this item. And in response to feedback that we received from the board, we went ahead and updated the proposed code to ensure a minimum protection of landmark and heritage trees. We also updated the ordinance to include adaptive management. So there's a directive to staff to return in a year with a number of data points for the board to consider as they look at the effectiveness of this program and whether they want to make any changes to it moving forward.
Can you outline those data points?
Yeah, well, Dana, would you like to highlight what's in the adaptive management?
So the data points we're planning to collect include siting difficulties for single-family homes. So whether we get a siting. And number of forest land conversion permits required that require tree conservation plans. Number of forest land permits that do not require tree conservation plans. So just comparing how many are requiring plans and how many are not. And then the number of moratorium releases that are being granted, and the tree canopy loss on lands using our tree canopy data.
And can you, with those points, will you be able to ascertain the number? I'm just not thinking that sharply this morning, but will you be able to figure out the question we were trying to drill on, which was folks that are disturbed, whose project is disturbing less than 20% of the site, but are going ahead and cutting trees on more than 20% of the site so that they would need the forest thing? I mean, is that going to be able to, are you going to be able to connect the number of folks that need the tree to the specifics of their project, I guess is what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
That's what I want to make sure we were covering. Okay, questions from the other board members? We've had a lot of discussion and tweaking and trying to get this moving forward in a positive direction. Commissioner Edwards.
When it comes to restrictions on someone building, maybe on a smaller property, let's just say it's an acre lot, they've got an acre to do something on. How does this impact them, considering things like danger trees or, I think the state has something, if a tree if it can reach your building, well, in a smaller lot, does it force a location? Just say you have a setback from a, I don't know, wetland or something. Even though it's not treated, it's forest area, or it's not forest area, so it's cleared area, for an example. Now that puts you in the forest area to build. So is this gonna make it much more difficult for that citizen to build a home on that property?
Yeah, I mean, we designed this new set of standards to take into account flexibility. And I think with the adaptive management component, the first thing on there is siting standard, like siting challenges for single-family homes. So I think this first year is really a great opportunity to work with our single-family home builders and see, has this created any more challenges? And if it has, then the board will have the option of tweaking some of those things moving forward.
So we believe there's flexibility still, but we don't know yet until we get on the ground and have applications. And that's why the adaptive management is so important. But we believe that it's still gonna remain flexible.
Yeah, or Olympia Master Builders has signed off and said that they think there's enough flexibility in
They
there.
think it'll work for kind of the layman's, example that I've used that really doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, we got it.
I'm seeing it.
You see it?
I see.
Okay, and that's my concern about the delays and how long, if we needed to make changes, how long is that period of time? Because sometimes a building situation, you know, you've only got a few months to work, so you're not working in a mud puddle eventually, not that it, you know, where you, machinery moving around, tearing the ground up and stuff. So how long is it gonna take us to make an adjustment, if an adjustment needs to be made?
Those are wonderful theoretical questions. We're not sure if an adjustment is going to be made. This is a development code change, so if there is something that needs to be changed, it can be changed anytime throughout the year. It doesn't have to come to you just once, like the comprehensive plan, once a year. So it could be relatively quick, depending upon if there's a big egregious thing that we didn't foresee.
Didn't think of this, so.
But we've worked really hard to think of many obstacles.
This process, and I think staff putting together, they're gonna come back and do a 6-month and then 1-year review to see if what we put into place has any unintended consequences, and report back to the board. Because this is new for us. And while another county has had it longstanding, we think we've taken what they've put in place and helped tweak some of the things that they've had issues with. We do want it to we want to make sure it fits for our county and our residents. So they will be coming back, keeping notes and statistics so that that can be reported out to the board.
That's right.
I mean, there are lots in rural America where most of the zoning is maybe 1 in 5, for an example. But some years back, a piece was taken off and it's a half-acre lot. And my concern is that make sure that we don't put barriers up where we end up taking somebody's ability to do something with their property. You know, as long as they can get a septic on there, as long as the water is available, all that kind of stuff. So you're still thinking this has covered it?
So that's all of the work and all the partnerships. Remember, we had that list of 40 organizations and Olympia Master Builders and environmental protection groups. We think that this adds flexibility, but to be clear-eyed, this is going to be highly protective of trees. This is one of the most protective of trees in the entire state of Washington that the codes will have in our building applications. So we think that there's still flexibility, but recognize this is highly protective of trees and there may be complications, but we don't have the data yet to answer that question.
For those folks maybe that don't live in this area normally, we've just completed quite a pollen situation that comes every year to northwest United States area. And a lot of it is from Douglas fir, for an example. And you might note that your car is just covered with pollen for 3 weeks or so out of the year. And some people are allergic to that. Does this give any bailiwick how does that fall in? I mean, did that ever get considered? It was, recently I was asked by somebody that happens to be allergic to Douglas fir pollen.
No, out of all things we considered, that was not one of them.
So I'm just curious, is there any way?
They need to look for a different place to live.
They might have to go to the desert. You know, I mean, you've got, it could be an issue. I know it's a stretch, but it could be an issue. And some of those smaller properties, they've got the few trees that were left when the lot was originally developed, and those trees were this big. Now they're heritage trees, I guess, is that what you call them? So, and not only are they a heritage tree, they're a danger tree, because there's nowhere to put a house without that tree being able to get it.
That's not the definition of danger.
Pardon?
So that cannot be the definition of a danger tree, is if you can't put a house there.
I think Commissioner Claus had a question also.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I just want to make sure that we're not boxing ourselves in too tight that we can't have a variance. Whether that variance could be given by maybe an administrative stroke of the pen, so to speak, instead of like going to the hearings examiner over something. So those are my concerns. So I want to.
Commissioner Claus.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to CPED. I know you've put a lot of work into this and have come to us a number of times, and every time you come to us, we have more questions. But you kind of just roll with the punches, so I want to say I appreciate that. And then also, I recall that in the last meeting, the main confusion, at least on my part, was understanding the percentages and how it's calculated. That was really my only loose end here. And I did request a meeting that hasn't happened yet, with CPED staff to understand those calculations. I can't recall if I requested a work session or a meeting. I think it was, I just wanted a meeting so that we didn't have to come back and have a whole group session. I didn't have that meeting, and I didn't see a copy of this before today's meeting. So that the way those are calculated is still unclear to me, but I do want to push this through. I know a lot of work has gone into it, and with that being like the smallest and the only piece that I'm still unclear on, I don't think that that's necessarily a reason to hold this up, because it's coming back before us in 6 months and 12 months, so we can see how it's going. But before next week, I would love to have just a quick meeting, either with CPED staff or the county manager, or at least see that draft and maybe like a brief explanation via email, just something so I want to feel confident that I understand how the calculations are breaking down.
Understood. We'll work with Alan to get that done.
Okay, thank you so much.
I guess I might ask, if possible, now that we have 5 on the board, maybe I can sit in on that without violating anything.
Yeah, I would definitely loop you in.
Sounds good.
But as we move forward with this, you're still feeling that we're not gonna be so restrictive. And what I'm going back to is the Attorney General's memorandum of September 2018, I think. So that we don't end up, even though that is not guidance the same as an Attorney General's opinion, that we run afoul of that guidance because of a tree that used to be this big. Now it's this big. Trees grow fast in this country. And now how do we handle that?
So I'll give you assurances that we will not run afoul of proper codes and ordinances. This has all been vetted through legal counsel. We've had a coalition, as we've talked about a number of occasions. But what I cannot commit to is that you won't get complaints from applicants about the code and how it's applied. That is the standard operating procedure. You may receive complaints, but it doesn't mean that it's not being implemented in the way that it was created. Again, it is highly protective of trees, so it may cause complications in people being able to do exactly what they want in the way that they want it, but we're gonna work to collect those data points and move forward. We believe it does have the flexibility, which is why we've got such a coalition of partners that are willing to take this next step.
How many partners, Josh?
At least 40.
35.
Well, there was 35 listed, but then there's all the other groups and individuals that have come to us and the outreach that's been done. The list that we provided, I think, was 35 or 39.
I believe it was 39.
39.
A lot.
So we're excited to move forward, but as with any new thing, we're gonna learn stuff. So we look forward to having that opportunity to bring that data and information back to the board.
What we have heard from our builders is that a lot of them build in Pierce County too, and since that's the other county that have had these standards on the books, as soon as we said things like minimum tree density, they're like, oh yeah, we got that, we know what that is. We do that elsewhere. So I think they're actually, more fluent with all of this than, we are, so.
And it seems to be working well in Pierce County. So taking the blueprint that Pierce County had adopted and making adjustments that they suggested, hey, if we could do it over again, we would make these adjustments. And taking that to a coalition of 35 to 40 folks and getting broad support because of the flexibility that's built in. And evaluate 6 months in a year, and if things aren't working, then staff will identify suggestions to bring before the board.
That's right.
If this is successful, if it actually pans out, I'm gonna think you guys are miracles.
You don't already.
HCP.
Yeah, thank you.
For the record, I think you're miracle worker.
Aspiring miracle workers.
There you go. Anything else?
Good. For also working with Commissioner Klaus and Edwards on that briefing.
Certainly.
The details. Appreciate your hard work all the way to the.
Excellent, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Next up is information technology, replacement of court audio-visual systems for district and superior courtrooms. Sherry Hill, IT
Hi.
Director.
Sherry Ilg, IT Director. It's time to consider and to replace the equipment in the courtrooms for Superior and District Court. The JAV system was implemented in 2020 as a result of COVID. It kind of got pushed through fairly quickly. The last couple of years, we've learned a lot about the JAV system and where its strengths are. And then we did the Courtroom of the Future project with funds from AOC. And we have learned that there's probably a better solution out there, which is AV Capture All. And I think Isaac's on the screen. If you have specific questions, he's done a lot of the footwork on this. So we have a plan for over the next 5 years to replace the equipment in the courtrooms with money that we collect every year for this specific purpose. It's less than $300,000 a year, but we brought it forward as one big package so we could just get it done as much time as I love spending with you guys. So, any questions? Do you have any questions about
You said
the plan?
jazz,
JAVS. It's Justice Audio Visual. That's the brand name, JAVS.
and that's gonna go away, and we're gonna have,
Portions of it are.
and we're gonna make adjustments to it, upgrade it.
Yeah, to upgrade it. The new system has, it doesn't have proprietary equipment. You hated JAVS?
It's been painful. It's been a very painful process, so I'm kind of glad to hear that there have been so many issues with JAVS and the courtrooms, and it just.
It uses proprietary equipment, and if something goes wrong with it, they have to come in. We have an enormous maintenance contract with them that will also eventually go away. So this one uses more standard equipment, and it's easier to maintain and update.
I'm sorry, I probably missed the part on the funding piece of it.
We started collecting to replace that equipment in 2020. When we implemented JAVS, it was part of our rates from then on. So we've collected all the money that we need.
Is this how long it was supposed to last, or are we jumping the gun to get it out of there?
No, it's got a pretty short lifespan. They already need us to upgrade to a much, do you have information, Isaac? The upgrade is gonna be incredibly expensive and.
Yes, so JAVS did not communicate this to any of their customers. They just came to us all of a sudden and said, hey, by the way, we're no longer going to support the standard definition systems that you have in Building 2 and Building 3. The cost to upgrade this in terms of their support from a software and a hardware standpoint was somewhere in the neighborhood of $350,000. And I maybe came a little bit unglued, and I said, I don't know who you think you're dealing with, but you know, we're a local government entity. We don't, I can't manufacture $300,000 just out of thin air on very short notice. And so we've managed to push back on that, and they're allowing us to keep the standard definition systems that we have in place. But it just, another thing that they've done that they didn't communicate to any of their customers is they've ceased to manufacture the main brain, the piece of hardware that has to talk to all of the hardware in the rooms. They ceased to manufacture that last year, and they didn't tell us about it. And so we had one of our smallest courtrooms in Building 2 down for about 2 months because they kept sending us these, you know, ones that they had sitting around, and they were wrong, and they don't have someone on staff that knows how to work on them anymore. And it just, so we need to move on to this better solution that we found. It's supported locally by a vendor on the state contract, not proprietary. You know, if we were in a pinch, we could purchase it from any number of different places. The other part that Sherry's very familiar with, and Commissioner Mejia as well, the amount of staff time that it takes IT to keep this system running is something that I don't know that we were necessarily prepared for or told about in the process when they were selected. You know, we spend several hours every week just sort of keeping this system running so that the courts can continue to do their jobs, because as several of the folks here know, we cannot stop the clock when it comes to someone that is, you know, is in custody or pending trial. So keeping this system going with less maintenance and less every day sort of hands-on is a big part of this process and this upgrade request.
I used AV Capturol for a lot of years and never had a problem with them.
So the equipment is failing, to answer your question. It's at its end of life, and it's time to be replaced. And we're doing whatever we can to keep the JAVS equipment that we have, the standard definition, up and running, and at the same time replacing. So we'll be able to take, you know, that pieces out of one courtroom as we replace it and keep that on hand to replace equipment in other courtrooms that we can no longer get anywhere else to keep those running while we go through this project of 5 years.
Are we gonna have to have a contract with both now? Or are we able to, like at some point, just go completely away from the previous system?
So there is a piece of
issues, or
there's a piece of JAVS that we will keep, and it's called the bookshelf. That's where the power of the JAVS system is in that ability to keep track of all of the recordings, and that's the strength. But the front end, we'll be able to completely walk away from that contract and just move forward with this contract.
So, look, I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but, so the court recorder, I guess the main thing for that person to make dang sure is that red light's on, that it's recording somehow. That's about to the extent I know. So can the red light be on? What happens when it's not recording, but the red light is on?
Isaac?
That is, we've run into that a few times. What has happened in those instances is we've found that the recordings have been retained in most instances. I can think of only one where something wasn't recorded in the courtrooms, and we don't find out about that until someone requests those recordings, and that's obviously not acceptable. But for all intents and purposes, and for the folks that were in the room, you know, the red light was on, and the system appeared to be recording. You know, in our experience that we have with, I've tested AV Capturol for a few different hearings now, and what I like about that system is the notifications and the way that they've managed to engineer it. You know, if there's a power event or something in the courtroom, the recording will pick up right where it left off as soon as the power is restored. It doesn't start a new recording. So for consistency and things like that, that's a big benefit to, to the clerk as the keeper of the record and to everyone else.
Commissioner, you're in favor of this, right?
So
Okay,
if
good
we,
enough. That's all I need to know.
if we didn't have to, if we didn't do this change and we were just sticking with Jazz, would we be spending the same amount of money just with them versus them? Or, I mean, how would the cost compare? Obviously there's conversion to the new system, but there would be a cost either way, right?
There is a cost either way, and the equipment needs to be replaced regardless of which option we go with. The thing that makes this a benefit over the JAVs is that the equipment won't become obsolete. It will continue to run on typical computer equipment, so they won't stop engineering the panels that we need to make it function, so that's the benefit. But either way, there is a cost, yes.
So you're painting a bleak picture of how this equipment is working, and your staff are doing an amazing job of keeping it up and running. Why are we proposing a 5-year conversion instead of trying to get it done now or during the court renovation project?
That's an excellent question. I'm sure we could probably, try to do it more quickly, but we're pretty single-threaded as far as support for those systems goes, and I would hate to overwhelm the courts or my staff trying to shove it in. But doing it this way too, we'll be able to, recover pieces of each courtroom that we can use to keep the other courtrooms running as we go through, plus the collection rate. I think this is also taking into account the rate that we collect money for the replacement, and we'll be able to spend it over time.
Right, and is there a risk by extending this over 5 years that maybe a year and a half in, there's gonna be a massive failure and we'll have to move the whole thing up?
I suppose. Isaac, do you have an opinion on that?
I'm very nervous about that. I share your concerns about the timeline, Robin. I believe how we arrived at this is we are collecting from the courts to replace this, and one of the avenues that we may have available to us is the Office of the Administrator of the Courts gave us a 10 out of 10 on the Courtroom of the Future and the way we implemented those funds from that grant award. And they are going to be approaching the legislature about trying to seek more funds for courts to be able to upgrade their technology based on what we did in the Courtroom of the Future. So there may be grant funds that we'll have access to in the near future. They're talking about that for the 25 to 27 budget, I believe, is the information I have from Chris Stanley at AOC. So there may be an opportunity for us to do this more quickly, but with the funding that we have in place at the moment, this is the plan that we felt was the best solution that we had at the time to try and get this upgraded over 5 years. The Family and Juvenile Court is all on the HD solution from JAVS, and is I'm gonna have to find a lot of wood to knock on, is generally more stable than the SD standard definition systems that we have in Building 2 and Building 3. So they're near the end of the plan that you have. But that was the idea, is we wanted to be able to approach you with something that we knew we were collecting funds for, that we had a way to pay for, and approach it from that standpoint. That was sort of our take on it.
Thank you.
One last thing I'll say about this is, like, JAVS was a painful system from the very start. I mean, this hasn't been new. The courts have been struggling with the system since the very beginning, and I'm kind of glad that we're going away from it because it's one of the things that I remember very vividly, and also, right, knowing that I've heard about just the shortcomings of the system right throughout, and the amount of work that it's taken for both the courts and IT to kind of keep this running.
I feel like I'm entering a new phase of my commissioning when I'm having to replace a system that I authorized purchasing and installing. I think this is the first time this has happened. Commissioner Edwards has probably seen this a couple of times. Isaac, it's good to see you. I didn't recognize you right away with your beard. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I'm used to.
Sorry, something I've been working on.
Yeah. All right, any other questions on this item? All right, thank you. Okay, we're up to Public Health and Social Services 8A. Michigan Public Health Institute Agreement. I'm not going to read all those letters and numbers.
Actually, we have Gretchen here joining us.
Gretchen Thaler.
Good morning, Gretchen Thaler, Division Director at Public Health and Social Services. Thank you, commissioners and county managers. Please let me know if you can't hear me at any point. I'm just dealing with a little bit of laryngitis, so I will do my best to make it clear.
Coming through well.
Okay, great. Some of you may remember when we did the Board of Health orientation, we had just learned that we were awarded this grant through the Michigan Institute of Health, and it is to expand our child fatality review work in Thurston County. So with this $74,000, we will be able to expand that by adding a fetal infant mortality review. Why this is important is because in Thurston County, we've had a higher infant mortality rate than the state average for several years. So I think at least probably 7-8 years. So I'm excited to be able to see this work expand. That will also allow us to do fetal mortality reviews, and we will be the first county in the state to be doing that. Many other states, this is widespread, but in Washington State, so far we will be first to do that work. The funding will also allow quite a bit of training for different pieces. It'll be for family interviews for the child mortality work, and then also for bereavement training. That's one of the other pieces, is that we plan to start offering bereavement support groups to families in Thurston County. And then finally, purchasing safety supplies that we are able to get out to our community partners, such as first responders. So we are getting pack and plays and other safety items, so that when somebody goes to the house in an emergency, if they see that the family is in need, that they will have the ability to be able to get them connected with a safe sleep environment for their child.
Can I get more information on that last bit you were just talking about?
Yes, on the safety supplies.
Yeah, would you email me just some more specifics on what that is and how that works?
Yes, absolutely. I will, I've got Lori Montoya here in my office with me. That's why I'm masked up. She has been working, her and our nurse that does the child fatality reviews have been working with some of our community partners and have gotten some of those things in place. So we will definitely get that information over.
Any other questions for Gretchen?
Great work, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is 8B, Amendment to Homeless Services Contract with Washington State Department of Commerce. Tom Webster is here to brief the board.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Webster, Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention at PHSS. So this item is requesting you to approve our signing of an amendment with the Department of Commerce for a variety of homeless services dollars. Last year, you approved a contract of just over $16 million. This is a 2-year contract we have with the Department of Commerce. This year, we were pleasantly surprised that they increased the funding award, and so this is adding money to our contract. The additional funding is listed as $5.8 million. In reality, it's really about $2.4 million in additional funding we're expecting. Last year, we received a separate $3.4 million contract under the Emergency Housing Fund that was federal dollars. We were anticipating that this year. It was just shifting to a state funding source. So it's really about $2.4 million in new money that is coming to us. We will be coming back to you in June with requests for approval to sign those contracts for adding to existing contracts and new contracts as well. But for this is to get your authorization to sign the amendment with the Department of Commerce to add that additional funding that will take us through June 30th of 2025. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Tom? Okay, straightforward. Thank you. That's 8B. 8C, set a public hearing for program year 2024 HUD Annual Action Plan and performance of Washington Department of Commerce CDBG coronavirus funds. Is this you as well, Tom?
Yes, this is me as well. I'm going to cover for Alex today. So this is, every year we have to submit an annual action plan for our HUD money. This is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. For retirement community, we receive funding under the Home Investment Partnership Program, as well as Community Development Block Grant Program. So we will be issuing the annual action plan on May 22nd, making that available for public comment. We need to have a 30-day public comment period. This is to set the public hearing for June 18th. We are required to submit this plan to HUD before July 15th. So June 18th is the last day we can have that public hearing before that plan is due. In addition, this plan, the Department of Commerce, as part of COVID, we also received a small amount of CDBG Community Development Block Grant COVID funding from the state. Those funds were spent primarily on the quarantine and isolation facility, as well as some money going to the food bank. The state requires us to have a public hearing to close out that grant. So we'll be holding both public hearings at the same time. The Department of Commerce allows us to do that. So we'll be publishing the beneficiary data from that report as well at the same time. So this is to set a public hearing for those two items. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Tom, since Alex is not here, can you let her know I'll probably need a little bit more time?
Will do. So
I'm kidding for the board.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for more time.
And just to note that on the CDBG this year is the city of Tumwater is making the CDBG award. So funds will be used in the city of Tumwater this year.
Okay, any questions on 8C? Nope. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Let's go to Public Works 9A, contract award for the 2024 chip seal project. And here's Matt Enzelman.
All right, Matt Enzelman, Thurston County Engineer. Steve Bricker will be presenting this item next week. On April 25th, a total of 3 bids were received for the 2024 chip seal project. Public Works staff has determined that Doolittle Construction is the lowest responsive bidder with a bid amount of $4,493,382. The cost for this project will come from the County Road Fund. Public Works has worked on a lot of successful projects with Doolittle Construction in the past. The contract includes 65 miles of chip seal surfacing in the southwest quadrant of the county. This is a significant project because for every chip seal treatment that we do, it extends the pavement life at least another 10 years. So that's how we stay ahead of our preservation costs, is keeping up with our chip seal treatments so we don't have to do those more costly overlay treatments. So in conclusion, Public Works is requesting the Board of County Commissioners to award this contract to Doolittle Construction for the amount of $4,493,382.
Questions for Matt?
When you say 65 miles, is that single lane miles?
Center line miles.
Pardon?
Center line miles.
Center line, so it's both lane.
Correct.
timeframe?
So, weather sensitive. We're in Washington. Sometimes May brings us good weather. Sometimes, actually more often than not, we're waiting until after the 4th of July to get that pavement temperature high enough so that we can actually pave. Welcome to Washington.
You can't pave in January.
Any other questions on this item? Okay. Next up is 9B, contract award for Johnson Point Road and Hawks Perry Road intersection improvements project.
And Brian Meyer, our design manager, will be presenting this next week. On March 8th, a total of 5 bids were received to construct the Johnson Point and Hawks Prairie Road intersection improvement projects. The lowest responsive bidder was received from Midway Underground of Toledo, Washington, with a bid amount of $2,039,999. The project will be funded through a combination of federal funds that we received through our Surface Transportation Block Grant, as well as transportation impact fees. This project was prioritized by Public Works to address collision history as well as traffic congestion. This project is needed to remain in compliance with the Growth Management Act. So in conclusion, Public Works is requesting the Board of County Commissioners to award this contract to Midway Underground in the amount of $2,039,999.
Is this a roundabout?
Yes.
Any questions on 9B? Good to go.
Go.
Keep on going. Public Works. 9C, set a public hearing to consider the application of Pacific Harbors Council, ESA, for a non-exclusive franchise for water distribution system and sanitary sewer system in Thurston County rights-of-way.
Okay. Craig Sisson, our real estate services manager, will be presenting this next week, but Susan Clement is on the screen to support me if I get in trouble. So state law requires that a public hearing be held on all franchise applications. Pacific Harbors Councils has applied for a franchise agreement to construct, operate, and maintain a water distribution system and sanitary sewer system within the Thurston County right-of-ways of Summit Lake Road and Summit Lake Shore Road. Pacific Harbors Council provides water and sewer connections to its facilities at Camp Thunderbird, more commonly known as the Boy Scouts Camp. The project will install 2 new utility crossings in the right-of-way, one crossing at Summit Lake Road for both water and sewer, and another at Summit Lake Road for water only. This project will allow the camp to consolidate 11 separate drain fields into one on-site system and allow for future development of a new dining hall. In conclusion, Public Works is requesting that the Board of County Commissioners set a public hearing to consider the application of Pacific Harbors Council.
Questions? Nope.
Okay.
Condescending is silence on that one. Okay, last one is item D, 9D, setting a public hearing to consider application of Cooper's Point?
It is Cooper's Point.
Cooper's Point Water Company, Inc., for non-exclusive franchise for a water distribution system in Thurston County rights-of-way.
So as I mentioned before, every franchise application comes with a public hearing. So Cooper's Point Water Company has applied for a non-exclusive franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a water distribution system within the Thurston County right-of-way known as Cooper Point. This is actually at the very end of Cooper Point Road. They provide connection to 31 privately owned lots. The original water system was galvanized pipe and installed in 1948. The project will replace the water main within the Cooper Point right-of-way with 4-inch HDPE or high-density polyethylene pipe. So in conclusion, Public Works is requesting that the Board of County Commissioners set a public hearing to consider the application of Cooper's Point Water Company.
Questions? Nope. Okay. We'll set that public hearing. That will be the end of our
Thanks, Matt.
agenda for next week. So let's move on to proclamations and awards. Clerk of the board, Amy Davis will come up and walk through.
Is this an additional one?
Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. The proclamations for Peace Officers Memorial Day and the Therapeutic Court Awareness Month are included in your packets. Again, we will have representatives from the Sheriff's Office and hopefully local jurisdictions here to accept the proclamation. The Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, or WASPIC's conference, takes place next week as well, so we may just have a smaller crowd here. All right.
Yeah, I just saw that. Go ahead.
That's all for proclamations.
Any questions on proclamations and awards? Let's go to advisory boards and commissions.
I'll start with the Veterans Advisory Board. In your packet is a resignation from a current member due to family commitments, effective May 20th. The Veterans Advisory Board has recommended appointment of Griselda Arias, who is the application that I just passed out.
On top of the ones we already did,
Yes,
this is not one of the ones that they,
this is an application that was received during the April recruiting. They received Matt's resignation after.
so this would be the replacement for Matt.
This is when we had the list of them, there was a couple that were still in the hopper, and so they pulled one of those and reviewed them, and now they're, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they reviewed those a second round.
Questions or concerns? Okay. Sounds like we're good on that one.
Okay, I'll include this on next week's agenda as well.
Okay.
And then I included Tina Browning's application for the Civil Service Commission in case there was further discussion earlier, so I will go to the next one. I received an application from Maren Gadman for the Fair Board. The Fair Board will review her application at their next meeting on June 5th, so I will bring this application and their recommendation back on Tuesday, June 11th.
So I'm gonna maybe suggest that we move that. I know we would let the Fair Board weigh in, but Ms. Gadman is known to me, and I think most of the members of the board. We're gearing up for the fair. We're gonna lose a whole month and she has indicated to me she would like to get going and get started. So with the fair rapidly approaching, I'm wondering if the board would entertain just moving that forward.
I would be okay with that as long as it's not gonna upset the Fair Board.
Maybe we could work on a notification to them, give them a heads up.
Yeah, give them a heads up.
Yeah, Amy and I will
Just
work on
get them, get them all the bodies that they need for their planning efforts.
I don't think so. Usually during this time, it's like they need all the hands they can get because it's just such a big lift and it's volunteer run until
You've
the
got
position
inside
got
track, this
filled.
is all good, right?
Yeah, it's good. I work with Maureen Gadman on other things, and she's really easy to work with.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they wouldn't be thrilled to have the spot
the
filled
context
quicker
that
rather
because
than
the fairs
longer.
come in and they need support. So, yeah, Amy and I will work on that.
They will appreciate that.
Okay, so that's great, thank you.
Next, I wanted to bring back Richard Freed's application for the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board. Richard's application was reviewed last week, and you provided direction to move forward with this appointment. However, it was brought to my attention afterwards that the board had previously paused all appointments to SWAB as it transitions to the Water Resources Advisory Board. Staff expect to bring the establishment of the Water Resources Advisory Board for formal approval prior to your summer recess. So my recommendation is to hold on this appointment until that time.
And you were putting on the consent calendar for Gadman?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we had a briefing to the board of what the proposed kind of new seats are, so it makes sense to make sure we're slotting the people into the new, is that I don't know, Bob, you were part of that. Does that make sense to you?
I would agree with the clerk's recommendation to delay on the appointments until we reconfigure that.
Okay, is everybody all right with that? Okay, and then, is that it?
That's all I have.
Any other questions on these from the board? All right. Yeah, checking.
Morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Communications Manager. We're in the process of finalizing our external communications plan for 2024 with the goal of gathering baseline data for developing our 25-26 communications plan. Firstly, we have some solid analytics to determine where we need to focus more of our attention or adjust our methods. The internal plan is drafted, but we're not going to finalize that until I refill that position. On that note, our internal communications public information specialist position is open, and we're accepting applications through May 26th. It's been posted on our social media and shared multiple times, so I'm hoping for a really strong pool. I'm looking for a strong communicator with some graphic design background and skills as a team player. So if you have anyone in mind, please forward the application on. And then lastly, I want to note we've completed 2 videos recently. The 100 Best Fleets video, that's going to be going in our Friday 5 this week and on social media. It was already shared and it'll be in the June Insider as well. And then the nurses video for National Nurses Week, that was completed last week, and Public Health started sharing that on Saturday, and it's gotten a lot of views. It was really good with their nurse family partnership. And then he's going to be working on the grazing video for the HCP partnerships, and then also going to be working on a video about the Billy Frank Jr. statue with a local artist. So those 2 videos are in the works, and lots of requests for videos. So Devin's getting lots of contact and lots of work.
From
It's great.
internal sources?
Yes, so people are recognizing that we have that asset now, so. Any questions? That's what I have.
Questions from anyone? Hearing none. Okay. Commissioner items.
Commissioner,
Yeah.
Travis is online if there were any kind of legal
Yes.
things, but if there's no questions for Travis, then you might be able to
I
sprinkle
don't think a legal issue came up this morning.
Not one.
It's always one on the verge.
That's very kind of unusual. We're making it so that
One on the
you'll,
verge?
Always.
so that they won't come up because we have you. So thanks, Travis. I don't think there's anything for you to worry about today. Appreciate you. Okay, Commissioner items? Nope. Covered several yesterday. Commissioner Edwards?
What's this?
I don't know. Wondering that myself.
That was brought in, delivered from Mr. Pettit.
But there's no explanation.
There's an email in your inbox that might, I don't know, I haven't opened it.
Oh, okay.
But it might refer to it.
Okay, good to know that. I just didn't know what it was.
Okay, well, we're back at 11 for appointed directors open forum, so we're adjourned for now. Back at 11 a.m.
Back then.